the maturity of Tesla bot and robotaxi is that we replace all human labor and go beyond that, and then all cars with robotaxi, right? Some pretty big achievements. People who don't have imagination can't think of what about beyond that? What if we have intelligence beyond human? Do things that humans can't do? Is that worth $5 billion now? Is that discounted cash flow going forward going to be worth something? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Next Week's Future. I have my good friend Randy with us. We're going to discuss the XAI purchase and all of the AI activity around Tesla and around the world, but mainly around XAI, robotaxi, Tesla bot, and beyond for super intelligence. So, welcome, Randy.
How are you doing? It's been an extremely exciting week.
Yes. Okay. So XAI, yes, that's we need to spend $5 billion on that. And the people who are saying, "Well, it's not worth it. It's um, maybe it'll 10x, but we can spend it on internal projects within Tesla, and we make all the money." So in the earnings call, Elon said that he tries to hire certain of the best AI people, and he offered them things within Tesla, offered them to work on the biggest projects, and they said no. They wanted to work in a startup, not diluted with cars and stuff. They want to work on the hottest AI thing, and they want to be a pure AI play. So why is that important? That um, won't they just solve GPT 5, 6, Grok, whatever, and then they'll go up to like $500 billion, $1 trillion, no big deal. So previously, Elon founded OpenAI with Sam Altman. That was pretty successful, but it only gets to $100 million. But the thing is, it's not going to stop there. Ilya Sutskever, his picture is here, a little asteroid, is working on super intelligence. And I'm saying that that's going to impact the world by 2027. I had made a video about that, right? The thing is, XAI is not just that company, just a bunch of H100s. It's Ilya recruiting the other, Elon recruiting the other people like Ilya. He knows the best AI people, and he recruited them into his AI company, right? Who have already, in the space of like a year and a bit, have basically caught up to OpenAI. He's got the hottest and best people there. And he has other ideas, huge ideas for how to change the world, right? With AI and superintelligence that we mortals don't know about, right? So $5 billion is not a bet on, a sure bet that we get to a GPT-5, GPT-6 equivalent, and it's going to be incorporated in a bunch of products, smartphones, cars, etc. That is the minor stuff. That's like the autopilot of, the driving assist system of 5, 10 years ago. It is going to robotaxi and going to Tesla bot. Tesla bot, people didn't know about that until 2 years ago. People were, oh, he's working towards robotaxi. Tesla bot, can't get that done. And now we're, almost there with that, right? So it's because there are bigger things with super intelligence beyond human. That's like, okay, the maturity of Tesla bot and robotaxi is that we replace all human labor and go beyond that, and then replace all cars with robotaxi, right? Some pretty big achievements. But people who don't have imagination can't think of what about beyond that? What if we have intelligence beyond human, do things that humans can't do? Is that worth $5 billion now? Is that discounted cash flow going forward going to be worth something?
So, I've been thinking about this for a while since the idea was starting to be floating around, and it wasn't until 3 minutes ago while you were talking that it occurred to me. Let's say that well, roughly the 5 billion is just for round numbers. It's 1/100th of the value of Tesla.
Mhm.
So therefore, let's take 1/100th of my personal investment in Tesla.
Mhm.
It isn't this number. Let's say my investment is $100,000. If Elon sent me an email right now and said, Randy, would you be interested in putting up $1,000 into XAI? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
Right.
take, I would, call off my dinners for the next year if I had to put
Right.
that $1,000 up. So yeah, so I think if people look at it that way, they're going to be buying 1/100th of their
Mhm.
of their shares in Tesla. Less than that, actually, because
Mhm.
Tesla's
Yeah.
more than 500 billion.
Right.
Less than 100th of their investment is going to go into there and give them a shot, give them a piece of the opportunity. I
Mhm.
think everybody take it. And then we could change the companies. You can go around to the different companies and say, well, if somebody was going to put $5 billion into SpaceX, would you take that deal? And I'm like, yeah. And they go to
Right.
Neuralink, yeah.
Right. And then the amount of money we're talking about is like
It's so
one
small.
quarter of the capital spent, right?
Yeah,
It's like it's a small amount of money to the cash that Tesla's generating, right? And you're getting a piece of another major piece of Elon's future, right? It was like, you read the Walter Isaacson, book about thing he was saying he was going for solving intelligence,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it's like back when all of a few months ago, when the pay package was in doubt, it's like, oh, Elon might leave, he might, not put his future AI ideas into Tesla.
yeah.
The stock dropped $100 billion. And it's
Right.
like now you don't want, he's saying, hey, you can get into my ideas, $5 billion, right? You're welcome to it. It's because I like you guys,
Yeah,
right?
right, right.
That I'm going to do this thing. You voted for my pay package. I like you guys. I'll let you into XAI, right?
Yeah,
Which is the stuff we worried about him taking away. So what changed? Why
yeah.
don't we want it now? And it's like, ah, no, I don't want that. I want E100s. That's crazy talk, right? We have to get in on that. And I personally believe, given his success record, you know, PayPal, OpenAI, Tesla, SpaceX, on and on, that he's got solutions that are very, and also it's no risk because if the lottery ticket doesn't pay off, all you got was a GPT-6 equivalent, a GPT-8 equivalent. It only went up 10 times, 100 times.
Right, right.
The
Yeah,
but the bet is, will it go up 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times?
right.
I'm saying yes. And I'm
Yeah,
saying I want
right.
to I want to have a diversified portfolio of all of Elon's stuff. I want, his Tesla, I want SpaceX, I want his XAI, I want X, because X is going to solve banking and stuff. It's like, he is solving everything. So, and you say, I don't want to bet on that aspect of Elon's ideas. It's only his AI ideas.
So
It's
it's
only
only the number one thing. Yeah, we were talking about this in another video, and it's kind of funny that we're even a few weeks ago, personally, I would have said batteries are everything.
yeah,
The guy that sells batteries, it's the that guy's and it's still true. I mean, batteries are still just incredibly huge in terms of the future. But when you stop and thinking about it, the biggest companies in the world right now, the seven largest companies in the world, are in this war to get to AGI first. And I think you've said the winner will take most.
right, right. And it's which one of Elon's company gets to $100 trillion first?
Yeah,
You know,
right.
it's not necessarily certain it's going to be Tesla. Even
Yeah,
with Tesla bought, SpaceX can get to $100 trillion. It could be in 2 years. It could take Tesla 5 years, 10 years. Who knows, right? XAI, you know, how is everyone so sure about the future of AI? So sure about superintelligence that no, they can only be worth $1 trillion max, max.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And then there's Neuralink. I don't know how that could ever be worth more than a few hundred million. And of course, Warren Redlick, he actually believes that the Boring Company will be the most valuable of all the companies
Right.
because because if you take all of transportation underground and all of transportation that's above ground now becomes parks zoos and who knows whatever. It would take a lot of money to get there, but man, it would certainly change the way that we experience our world.
So for Neuralink, he's talking about getting, already has 10 bits per second communication, and he's talking about getting to megabit communication. So
Right.
faster than any kind of typing or something like that, direct communication to our devices. Operate Tesla bots, by telepathy. Operate your car and stuff by telepathy. Doesn't have to be one by you; it could be one across the planet.
Right.
And then you can also beam yourself into it. So basically, you can get the sensory input where you're operating things, tele remotely. And now I get even more connected, like a billion times connection to my computers and devices. My brain is constantly going into computers that are, say 10 years more advanced from today. So they're, zettaflops and zettaflops of compute in the stuff I'm connected to. And I've got a high speed connection to it. So then I'm constantly getting everything that my brain is doing every microsecond, every nanosecond, constantly interfacing with computer memory and compute. And the compute will probably become more than my brain, right? So my brain at 100 trillion synapses and blah, 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 a certain amount. If it became in 10 years or 20 years, that the computer I'm connected to is 1,000 times more than my brain.
Right.
Right. So I've expanded my brain by 1,000 times. But the other thing would be that the hardware on that 1,000 times more compute could be made redundant. You'd have industrial processes to keep it all working great. Right. So then your mind is basically spread across this 1,000 times the brain, 1% biological or 0.1% biological, and then 99.9% not. So you get hit by a car and then you're dead. Your biological brain is dead. But 99.9% of you is still in the machine systems that are this computer. So basically you had a minor stroke. So you went from being dead instantly to like having a minor stroke where you lost 0.1% of your brain. And you've constantly communicated with it over 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, right? So basically it is a path to
Immortality, yes.
immortality uploading. So a minor thing that comes out of potentially just ramping this thing forward.
Yeah, I mean, we actually already have this on a minor scale. I mean, what we're doing right now probably will be accessible 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. So you and I are leaving little bits of our brain, hopefully valuable bits. I'm not always sure, but we're leaving bits of our brain here on this YouTube video. And somebody who's researching what happened with AI, the history of how AI developed, might run across this YouTube. And, so bits of our brain are being immortalized, at least on some level going forward. Now, if you've got 7 billion humans whose brains are all connected and doing all these things, the data storage is going to become, you're going to start storing it on something besides transistors, I think.
Well, I think eventually, we'll get, more molecular control. And I've gone to these futurist type conferences, actually even 20, 30 years ago. And the discussion was that you can make these ultimate computers, which you would have, molecule by molecule precise. And then you would increase the speed of communications so that it would get closer to the speed of light. You basically push up to physical limits. And then if you got to the physical limits, you'd have something called computronium. So then, so it's just like, superconductors or unobtainium, which is in the Avatar movie,
right?
Computronium. That you can make more and more of it at the physical limit. And then you can also figure out if you can go beyond the physical limit, right? So then you make more and more of it. So then it would be, once they have that, so whatever the substrates go from silicon to graphene to nanotubes or whatever, and then to Computronium, right? Where it's like, okay, I've made it as perfect as I can in the physical world, and then I make more of it. I can make a Jupiter-sized brain of Computronium, right? Which would be, 10 to the 40 times 10 to 50 times more powerful than the 10 to the 20 zetaflop thing that we have now, right? So the future, once you control the matter and the compute, goes quite crazy.
Brian, you and I've had this conversation before, but when we get this far out on the conversation, I sit here in
Yeah.
my townhouse on a golf course,
Yeah.
uh, beautifully surrounded with greenery everywhere, amazing grounds.
Mhm.
I eat exactly what I want to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I could eat better. I could eat steaks or
Mhm.
whatever I want to for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I have a kind of a set routine, and I'm happy with my routine. I sit here and watch my 80-inch screen. I mean, what is the future? What are we going to have in the future that's actually going to change our enjoyment of life, or our joy de vivre, our that's the same thing, actually. Redundant, Randy, much.
Mhm.
Our comfort. I mean, it seems like we're kind of already there for anybody that's middle class and above.
So I would say that in a world of abundance and super intelligence and um, you know nearly unlimited technology, right? That yes, you can have perfect comfort, whatever the difference is between a middle class person and a billionaire. Everyone could live like billionaires and
Really.
trillionaires, right? Because if you expand into the solar system, not even to other solar systems, just expand to the solar system, you would get 1 billion times more resources, right? 100 billion times
Right,
more resources, right?
right,
So then everyone becoming a trillionaire would be like whoever has $1,000 now will have a trillionaire when things get 1 billion times more. So it would become somewhat like the Star Trek, not in terms of like, flying around spaceships, because we'll have even better technology than that. It's just like when you look at the old series of Star Trek with William Shatner and stuff like that, their communicators and phones were inferior
right,
to
right,
to
right, right,
ours, right? And then their screens, like your 80-inch screen, was their put it on the main monitor,
right,
right?
right, right,
Of
right,
an entire spaceship, right? So their technology would be high, but they had the idea of that we would boldly go and do things,
right,
right?
right.
That would become the purpose
Experience.
and the
So
experience.
experience. So
Experience.
I've been saying this for a while now, is that in this new world, it's all gonna be about experience.
Yeah.
Elon, I think, has actually said something similar after I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I put together a whole thing about a year ago. Maybe you and I talked about it, there's going to be, 5 levels of professional baseball. You'll be pro, and then semi-pro, and then quarter pro, and then 9-year-olds or whatever. People will actually pay to go to those 9-year-old games because the 9-year-olds will be fun to watch at some level. And, so there'll be all these different sports, all these different games, all these different places to travel to. Venice might be overcrowded right now because everybody wants to go to Venice, but there'll
Mm-hmm.
be places like Las Vegas that'll just pop up in the middle of the desert. There'll be
Mm-hmm.
resort for some specific thing that people
Yeah.
want to go do. It'll be experience, experience, experience. Because what else? You can't do
Right.
it with stuff.
Well, it's experience and also doing things like boldly going and doing things,
Right, right,
having
right.
purpose.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like set your own purpose.
yeah.
Like we're just going to be going to Elon's going to start sending people to Mars
Mhm.
and open the solar system, just as maybe AI is making employment and regular jobs redundant, right? And people say, oh, my purpose is my job. Really? Your purpose is to run Excel spreadsheets and to do financial planning for XYZ company. That, running accounting, running finance, sales and collection. That's the ultimate purpose of what you want to do, really? Or, just that we can go to colonizing Mars,
Right, right.
exploring the solar system. We can all be Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong and go to the new planets. We can go to the moon, go to Mars, and he said all the new, everyone went to Venice, but people haven't been to Olympus Mons on Mars. They
Yeah,
haven't. I can go to the Apollo 11 landing site.
right,
There's a
right, right.
bunch of things to do. And that's just the nearby stuff. We can go to Europa, go to the asteroids, and so I think Star Trek got that right. It's like let's go and do stuff.
So in order to get there, we have these huge data centers right now, and I think you wanted to talk some about those, huh?
Right. So the the data centers are so XAI is doing them, and then Tesla has their data center as well. So Tesla data center, they're both H100s, NVIDIA chips, and then also have some Dojo. And Tesla's working towards solving FSD and robotaxi with that, and also doing some stuff with Tesla Bot on their
And Tesla already
system.
has, like before we open Austin, Tesla already has some kind of a massive, at least one supercomputer. I'm assuming. Well, they
Mhm.
said at one point it was the largest in the world. Even
Mhm.
before we started with the tech Austin,
Mhm.
with I guess that's in Fremont.
Right. I think they have another system. They had been renting 20,000, I think, GPUs from Oracle,
I
right?
see.
So
Okay.
there's a bunch of stuff they've been doing. Exactly which systems and what, because I don't work there, I
Right.
don't know where all the stuff is. They have a lot,
A
however they're
lot.
getting it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so that's what that's working on. But the XAI one is has also real world data. We see that from the Grok 1.5
Hmm.
video version that they released. People haven't looked at it. It can generate images, it can generate pictures, it can analyze an image, both traffic as well as like a flow chart. I can draw a flow chart, decision trees and stuff. People know computing, it's a way to encode logic in a visual format, and they can get programming out of that. So their purview is solve all kinds of problems, not just um, driving, not just robots,
Right.
including those, but also other things that are, getting the world with the right physics, and also being able to handle all video, audio, talk, speak, handle pictures, and all that kind of stuff. So it's,
Right.
it's a wider um, thing to solve, which again goes to there are problems outside of cars and bots that are worth solving and highly valuable,
Yes.
and we
Yes.
want to get those. So that's something that's happening, and again, the best people are there to solve it. So the data centers keep growing. There's some scaling around that, but going up 5, 10 times, and the Dojo chips are something where so right now there's a limitation on the number of NVIDIA chips that they can make.
Right.
So they involve a certain thing called, chip on wafer type technology. There's things called interposers in between, some communication layer in it. So how they have built that chip, um, they're limited to about 240,000 wafers um, per year from TSMC,
Hmm.
right? TSMC doubled up the number of wafers, but still there's limitations around that, right? So that means they made about 4 million, just shy of 4 million chips last year. And then they swap out, okay, I'm going to go from H100 to H200 to B200, right? It's still the same wafers. They don't have more wafers to go
Hmm. Okay.
until TSMC makes bigger solutions to scale that up, what they're working
Right.
towards. There's huge efforts on that side to, reduce the limitations to scale that up. But if they're only making, say, 8 million, whatever the latest version chip is next year, right?
Right.
And then uh, Tesla and XAI want 1 million of those, right? They have limitations. They've got to fight with other people for those chips, right? If I have a version of a chip that doesn't have the same um, wafer constraints, because TSMC can make 100 times more wafers, right? It's just that they can't make more of those kind of wafers that have all of these, like high levels of memory thing, high bandwidth memory, which it makes it into an actual compute unit that is like 1,000 pounds. It's like
Hmm.
almost the
Hmm.
size of a car, right?
Hmm.
That how much compute there is, especially when you load in a big rack and stuff like that. Because there's a lot of stuff going in there. So if you have a solution that doesn't have that limitation, right? That you like the ones that are going into like the AI5 things. People who don't see the video, they hold up something that's the size of like a tablet that has the chip the two chips on it, right? That's the compute unit of a hardware 4. So it's a smaller thing, right?
Hmm.
Less compute, but it's like doesn't have a bunch of the other limitations. I mean, if you remember the Dojo tile, it was, they're
Yeah,
holding it up. It was like a 1 foot by 1 foot thing, right?
yeah,
That tile had a bunch of the compute components in it. Far lighter and simpler than the NVIDIA H100, H200, which is, yes, that chip comparable, but everything that goes around it is less, right?
yeah,
So that means that even if the compute is somewhat similar, that the numbers could go way higher because I'm getting a solution that can say scale to 100 million wafers. Sorry, um, like 10 million wafers. So
mm,
instead of 240,000
mm,
wafers, I could
mm,
get 10, 20 times more,
mm.
right? So there's supply chain reasons why you would want to have that capability for yourself. It's the same thing, like they're not a limitation on how they design the hardware for AI 5, where like, I'm putting it to like 4 million cars, right? Right. That if I was trying to shove an H200 in there, I wouldn't be able to do it, right? Because I'd have to get half of the H200 in the world, right?
Yeah. So I've heard three or four different descriptions of that part of the conversation at earnings day, where Elon was almost talking to NVIDIA,
Hmm. Yeah.
where he said, these guys, they've got a limited number they can make, and we're going to need a lot more, and we're worried we won't be able to get them, and so we're going to double down on Dojo, and we're going to make a lot of our own chips, and we think that we can be competitive with Dojo in the future. And so there was, my first impression was, oh, they want to be competitive with Dojo. Are they going to start selling chips in competition with Dojo? A couple of people said, "No, Randy, you're full of, you're all wet on that. They're not going to sell." Well, I don't know. And then, and then some other people were saying, "Well, what he was basically doing was negotiating right there in the earnings call." That was Jeff Lutz.
Yeah.
Jeff said, "Yeah, he was just negotiating. He was just saying, look, you guys better get me the chips I need,
Right.
or I'm gonna bury you."
It goes to the 4680s. Like 4680s batteries had issues with the ramping, but it gave them leverage and insight into what CATL and the other guys were doing, right? And also, it's not like a head fake where it's like, okay, I'm not going to do it. It's
Yeah,
like, I'm going to try and do it. If I
yeah,
can
right,
solve it, I win. If I
yeah,
can't solve it, I still learn something. It's still good for me to do it.
right,
And they have limitations now. So I view it similar to 4680s. They think they're not going to try for a solution that's not going to win. It has no
right,
chance of winning. He can say,
right.
I want a solution that has a chance of winning, right? And I'll keep at it. I still want all the batteries. I still want all the NVIDIA chips I can get. Part of it is the negotiation, but he's not faking it. He's like, I'm
Right, right,
I'm
right,
deadly
right.
serious. I want more compute, right? So, and then the thing is not just him. Sam
Yeah,
Altman is
yeah,
trying to get, his own fabs and trying to get $100 billion from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia to make chips and stuff like that. I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg is trying to get, his own chips. Like right now, they're paying 80%
profit. Yeah,
margin to
yeah,
NVIDIA.
right.
So that basically means 5 times the cost,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So even if I only got half as good,
Yeah,
right? I'm still saving money because now I'm paying, only, 2.5 times instead of 5 times, right?
right.
And also I get around these bottlenecks. So it's all to the good.
Yeah,
And it's not like Jensen's saying, I want to block or prevent you from doing that. You're free to make your thing. Like, what
yeah,
can I do? All I can do is push as hard and fast as I can to scale up, work with TSMC, execute on my bit, right?
right.
And he's also trying to scale his car and robot solutions. If again, not like they're all warm and
Yeah.
cuddly teddy bear things,
No,
right?
no, no.
They're trying to solve the stuff. They know what's valuable.
Yeah,
Human
yeah,
bots are valuable. Self-driving is valuable. They're
yeah.
all working. Yeah.
And if anybody is confused and think that NVIDIA is sitting there and they're fairly allocating that they're saying, oh, well, first in first, if your order's in first, you get shipped first. You can forget about it. Okay.
Right.
I've been in too many conversations with my own companies, my own little companies, where there was something in limited supply. And oh, you mean how did they get that first? It's like, or how I'm sitting there with the decision to make because I've got limited supply and I'm going, am I going to mess over my number one customer so that I can be fair to my least important customer?
Right.
It's not, believe me, it's not yeah, it's a dilemma, but
Yeah.
it's going to be solved based on more than just whose order was in first.
Right. But clearly, Elon and Jensen, they're on good terms. Like,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
all important guys. So
that's clear. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like Steve Jobs and the Google CEO and chairman, right? Because basically they were on each other's boards, right? And then Steve Jobs says, "Hey, I'm making the iPhone and blah blah blah," and then suddenly the Google guys, a year or two later, they buy Android and they start making competitive phone, and they like took all the secret stuff. So that kind of betrayal is,
Yeah.
that is a
You only
reason
do
to
that
say.
once.
Yeah, you do that once, and then you're off the board, and then you're hated forever, and it's game on. But you've chosen to do that. It's like this is valuable enough. I'm going to screw this over and whatever. For Elon and the Google CEO, I think, or ex-CEO, Sergey Brin or Larry Page, one of the two,
Mhm.
they were good friends, and then their friendship broke up because Elon recruited Ilya Sutskever,
Right.
who was the chief
Right.
scientist for OpenAI,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And that was that critical thing, not the chips, but like a critical person, because some of these people are the ones that make the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. All
yeah.
right.
Okay, so I think we talked about so basically XAI, yes, it's a bet on super intelligence, and I think it's going to succeed. One, I think a lot of people will say super intelligence, but I'm thinking that um, Elon's angle and plans for superintelligence would be way more valuable than a lot of other people's plans for it. And it's better to have more pieces of that. Superintelligence is going to happen, and then paths to immortality, all kinds of like the amount of technology and things that will work. Again, it's like if you get superintelligence, you're not going to solve medical problems. You're not going to. It's like it's going to happen, and it's going to be way, way valuable, right? So you want to have pieces of whoever is driving technology. Having cash in a world where um, you're growing by 50% per year, that makes sense. Just like having making 2 to 4%, like, oh, I don't want to have cash. They technology and it's technology that can grow 50% per year, 100% per year. You want to be in that, and it can go even faster. Like we're at the point because back 100 years ago, no one could grow 2 3% per year. It
Right.
was like down like 0.5% or 1%. That's why the world didn't change for a long time because there was no
Mhm.
growth. This growth is a new thing for the last 200 years, 100 years, right? And getting to 8% growth a year like China did for 40 years, again, a new thing, right?
Mhm.
So the limitation that it's going to flatten out. No, if it's going up exponentially,
Right.
you want to go for that technology, and so it's going to be a lot better.
Cool.
Okay, okay. Thanks for joining us. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Patreon and join us for our next video. Thanks, everyone.